Hi everyone, I'm Vlad Sparastoria and I know everything about shooting. This beautiful polymer semi-automatic, the Fabrique Nationale 509, in the modern landscape of polymer semi-automatic pistols, the Fabrique Nationale 509, and its little sisters are quickly gaining traction, especially in the law enforcement market. However, these are pistols that come from a long line of models produced over the years by Fabrique Nationale, a line that's almost completely unknown. And despite their excellent quality, these pistols are actually quite unknown, especially in Italy. Not to mention its even more unknown predecessors. The reason for this actually is quite silly and simple. You see, Fabrique Nationale is owned by the Belgian government, or rather, technically, by the Walloon region, where Fabrique Nationale is based. And as often happens with government-owned entities, many of the decisions that are made are political. Until a few years ago, by choice, they didn't sell weapons to civilians in Europe. Meanwhile, in America, the American Fabrique Nationale factory in South Carolina was selling very well. And they made excellent contracts with, for example, many different police agencies. In Europe, they were falling behind. 3 years ago, since 2022, this has changed and Fabrique Nationale's pistols have finally appeared on the market. This made the Fabrique Nationale 509 and all Fabrique Nationale pistols a complete novelty. In some ways, on the Italian market, which still manufactures them, they are not very well known. So I wanted to talk to you a bit about how this pistol was developed. Then we'll take a closer look at it, and of course, we'll test it. The Fabrique Nationale 509 has its roots in a glorious, much-loved pistol, probably the best pistol of World War II. I'm referring to the Browning High Power. I have another video for those interested in learning more. But in a nutshell, it's the result of a project by John Moses Browning, later developed by his student after his death, by Donishev, the great mind. Behind the most famous designs of Fabrique Nationale, the Browning High Power introduced many very innovative features for its time. It was one of the very first pistols ever, for example, to have a double-stack magazine, and it had the largest capacity of the weapons of that time. And the fact that it was so good at the time meant it was copied and built in many different places for many years. And as a result, at a certain point in the 1970s, Fabrique Nationale with this design found itself a bit behind. This often happens in many cases to many pioneers of certain technologies. You have a product that comes out ahead of its time, that's excellent, and you keep producing it because it's better than your competition. But your competition, in the meantime, works hard, and there comes a time when that same competition has developed better products. The world of handguns between the 70s and 80s is dominated by what are called the Wonder 9s. The 9 classic wonderful pistols in 9mm with double-stack magazines that will win the hearts and also the wallets of many government agencies of the time. Let's think about a truly Italian Wonder 9, that is, the Beretta 92 series, the big competition that will have to decide which of these Wonder 9s was the best. These will be the tests for the adoption of a new pistol for the American Army, the one that will become the M9. We have also talked about this chapter in detail. You can click here in the top right corner to catch up on this story. If you catch up on it, you'll find out, for example, that Browning and Fabrique Nationale will show up with a pistol, but it won't be this one. One of the requirements was that it had to be double action. And for this competition, and then to look for other sales, Browning created the HP double action, which means double action for double action. However, it was literally probably the worst pistol that participated, and it came in dead last in several of the tests. It definitely wasn't a satisfactory product, and they definitely needed to look for a new solution. In some ways, they almost had to start from scratch to design a weapon that would be ready for the 80s, 90s, and beyond. In those years, however, at Fabrique Nationale, they were thinking outside the box, thinking about the next step, about completely skipping over the good Wonder 9 to reach a new technology. In fact, Fabrique Nationale was developing the concept of a new caliber, the one that would become the 5.7 X28, a caliber made very famous by the P90, a weapon that we were lucky enough to see very recently. But remember that there was also a pistol paired with the P90 in that caliber, the 5-7. After the failure of the Browning high-power double action, Fabrique Nationale was betting everything on that model. It was a very pioneering project which should be discussed separately. The caliber did have some advantages, but also raised many doubts for a lot of people. So, alongside the 5.7, a weapon in more traditional calibers was developed for an audience that wasn't yet interested in the 5.7. That is the Fabrique Nationale 49, where 49 actually referred to the 40 Smith & Wesson caliber and the 9mm, the 49. It was a mix of different ideas. It was loosely based on the Browning high power. In fact, in a way, it resembles a polymer Browning high power. However, it failed. When it arrived in the early 2000s, FN at this moment in the field of pistols and classic calibers is trying to catch up with what the competition had already done for some time. A redesign was needed, and in many ways it was necessary to move away from the old Browning high power. This led to the creation of the Fabrique Nationale Striker, a polymer pistol introduced in various calibers, including 9mm, which achieved decent success, along with its successor, the FNX. Modern polymer carry pistols, which had a feature that some people really liked, but others, especially in the fields of defense, law enforcement, and the military, did not. A bit less. It had an external hammer. Obviously, here the queen of polymer pistols over the years is the Glock. The Glock is used. A striker-fired mechanism. All the guns that want to compete with the Glock must have a striker-fired mechanism. Thus, based on the FNX, the Fabrique Nationale Striker project was born. A modern polymer pistol with a striker-fired mechanism. About 10 years ago. The American Army will prepare the tests for the modular handgun system. Tests that will famously be won by Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft P320, which was in a lot of trouble, things you've surely heard about. Many companies will adapt theirs to try to meet the parameters that the American Army wanted. This is what Fabrique Nationale will do, taking its Fabrique Nationale S and turning it into the Fabrique Nationale 509. And with that, it will basically become the Fabrique Nationale 509. They enter this American competition. Unfortunately, the weapon is excluded. I'm not sure if it's due to its flaws, but technically it experienced the same as Glock. Technically, it doesn't have a modular trigger group, at least not in the way the American military defines it, so it was excluded from the start. But precisely with the goal of passing these tests, it was designed very rigorously. For example, Fabrique Nationale boasts a lot that to test this weapon in various environments and conditions, they used 1 million rounds. So, during the development phases of this weapon, they fired 1 million times. Not with just one weapon, to be clear, but just to give you an idea of the amount of ammunition used to develop every detail of this beautiful pistol. I have to say, I really like it. You'll hear that a lot in this video. But let's do one thing. First, let's take a close look at how it's made. And then, of course, we'll try it out at the shooting range. The Fabrique Nationale 509 comes in this box, which obviously indicates the model very clearly. You can't make a mistake about what you bought. Inside, we'll find a series of accessories. I want to point out that some of these are, let's say, from the factory, while others are accessories that the distributor gave me. At the moment when I actually picked up this pistol, we have a beautiful case with the Fabrique Nationale logo with the weapon itself inside, but now we also have the manual as standard. It's important to read it as it offers much advice on weapon maintenance. We have a little lock for the weapon for those who want to use it. And behind each system instead there are accessories like an enlarged pad for the magazine or a counterweight for the weapon. We also have enlarged back straps for the grip. By the way, the weapon arrived already assembled with this one, also always from Tony's system with the mini funnel for the magazine as well. However, it was too big and uncomfortable for my hand, so I used the smaller one instead. But let's go take a look then. The weapon, our carrying bag comes with 2 magazines. I also installed this Tony system here. I I need to quickly check how I did it, since we'll see this magazine during the live fire test. It gave me a small problem, nothing serious. I'm probably the one responsible here. And here is finally the weapon. On the left side of the weapon, we have markings like the serial number and the caliber. They're made in 9x19. They're not even produced in 9x21. And the place of production? These pistols were all produced at the American Fabrique National factory in South Carolina. On the left side, we have the caliber of the weapon repeated, the Fabrique National logo, and here 509, which indicates the model. The logo of the Belgian company is also repeated on the grips and at the bottom of the magazine. The Fabrique National 509 is a pistol with a very traditional design. So, we won't find any big surprises when it comes to its ergonomics and controls. The controls. Of course, we have the trigger split into two halves because the lower half acts as a safety. We have the hold open lever, which keeps the slide open when the magazine is empty, and we have the magazine release. Here's the takedown lever. All controls are mirrored except the takedown lever, which is on the right side. The weapon is fully ambidextrous, featuring both a hold open lever and magazine release. The factory sights are tall and very visible. I personally really like sights with dots, so I'm very happy with these as well. The weapon features a Picatinny rail for mounting accessories like a flashlight, or for example for sport shooters who might want more stability with the weight, a counterweight. It has, as we said, the interchangeable back strap here on the back. You just need to remove this pin to slide it out and change the back strap. This is the smallest one, very squared. It really fits my hand perfectly. In general, the texture here on the grip panels and the handle is very aggressive. I mean, these, trust me, these little pyramids, I don't know how to describe them. You really feel them when you grab it. Me, I'm someone who sweats a lot, both because of my weight and my northern DNA. I really appreciated the fact that this grip, even with a sweaty hand, is very, very, very solid. Don't pay attention to small details, like the fact that, well, the sights are worn out. The weapon is a little dirty because I've used it a lot in the last few months. This is not a review. Well, the weapon just arrived now, but actually I've had it for months and I've been testing it for months. I absolutely love it. But we'll get to the live fire test to see just how much I love it. So let's take a look at how the weapon is made inside. We pull back the slide, engage the hold open, rotate the takedown lever, and pull down the hold open. When the trigger resets, we have to press it. And in this way, we can separate the polymer frame of the firearm from the action, the slide, the bolt, the barrel, and the recoil spring. We remove the double recoil spring. As you can see, we have two springs here nested inside each other. For the sport version, various spring weights are available. That's why there's this paint, yellow paint on the spring, which so far has worked perfectly. With all the ammunition I've used in these months, I repeat, don't mind the dirt because I still haven't cleaned it. After repeated use, we can take out the barrel of the weapon. And obviously, these are the parts of the system. Obviously, as you can tell from the hook, we're dealing with a modified Browning tilting barrel system, also known as the Schweizerische Industriegesellschaft Sauer system. We've talked about it a little, especially lately, with this system. The barrel is cold hammer forged, it has traditional rifling, and the slide is obviously milled from solid steel. This weapon definitely does something that I really like, and it really focuses on ergonomics. I've noticed this very often. Take the Glock or other polymer guns, where weight is a big factor because polymer is light, and they often end up being well balanced. For example, I praised the Glock 19X because it's a bit shorter in the front, so it has less slide and distributes the weight better. This pistol, the Fabrique National 509 for me, in terms of ergonomics and how it distributes the weight with this ergonomics, is almost perfect. It's based on the compact version of the Fabrique National Striker, and this one is actually full size. There is also a compact version, but this one is already a compact version, and this ergonomics really distributes it very well. The slide is a bit heavy because it's obviously milled from solid, but when it's on the gun, you don't feel it. I'm really positively impressed by this pistol. Then, of course, here we have the gun's extractor, and we also notice the firing pin perfectly clean. And the firing pin safety, clearly the firing pin safety, it must be pressed at the moment we pull the trigger by the transfer bar, thus making it impossible for an accidental shot to occur if, for example, the gun were to fall. Actually, speaking of size, I have a Glock 17 here to show you how this one is much smaller in some of its dimensions. So let's do this, let's reassemble it. As you can see, there were no surprises of any kind here. Let's reassemble it. At the beginning, here the weapon is ready to fire, but let's take a look at the size for a moment. Let's just put in the magazine, because even the Glock, here is the weapon. So I don't know how much you can see. Look at the length, for example, right? It's just a few centimeters shorter, but look from this angle how you can see the Fabric National 500 to 509 is slimmer. When you hold it, you can really feel that it's smaller, not just shorter, but also narrower. Over the years, as I started my journey as a shooter, I didn't really like Glocks that much, but over time I've grown to like them more. But I'm in love with this one. Actually, let's do one thing. Let's finally go try it out. And here we are, finally at the shooting range, trying out this Fabric National 509. And I repeat, it's not the first time I've handled it, so I might have some preconceptions because I've already tested and tried it extensively in the past months. But as with any semi-automatic, we have our magazine, we can insert it into the firearm, and by pressing it at open, the firearm goes into battery. Let's try a few shots first, on paper at about 20 meters. Then maybe we'll shoot at the steel target that's further down, at 40 meters. Let's try the steel target. And obviously, with an empty magazine, the gun stays open. I'm glad we didn't miss a shot at the steel target at 40 meters. So, You've already figured out that this is the pistol I like. Besides, I have a great appreciation for the company. I've always liked Fabric National's products. Just like people who are into cars and prefer one company over another, often regardless of anything else, sometimes instinctively, they prefer one over another. So I've always had a great appreciation, especially thanks to its history, for Fabric National. Let me tell you about this weapon, not just because I own it, or maybe I do, but it feels made for my hand, especially the first time I held it. Do you remember that scene from The Lord of the Rings where Theoden, when the spell is broken, is given his sword? No, he regains his strength with that music. That's exactly how I feel with this. As for the ergonomics, it's really excellent. Of course, it has interchangeable back buttons, as we've seen. I chose this flatter, smaller one because I prefer straighter grips like this. Let's try another magazine, if I don't have another one in my pocket. This one with the Plus 2 pad from Tony System, so it holds 19 rounds in total. Let's insert it and see. Let's see. Not bad, not bad. Let's reload the magazines and try again and see. I need to figure this out for a moment. This Tony System base plate, why doesn't it let the magazine go into hold open? But System, please, go ahead. Come on, left-handed. This should be completely ambidextrous. Yes, yes, but...
Finally, a smart pistol.
Try the iron at 40. You're hoping a bit low. Cover it well. I don't like this one. It's a combat. Yes, that was great, Bella. And obviously, you go in to hold open. The magazine releases on your right side. That is this one. Yes, exactly. Opinions? I'm not a fan of such high sights. I count these that you change. They gave me Tony Systems once a bit lower with fiber optic only, but I prefer these. I like the sights this high with the white dots, slightly phosphorescent, exactly. I see them clearly. They're not target sights, but they're quick to acquire.
I'm just used to seeing sights at 10 minus 9 minus 11. Very low. No, it's nice. The recoil. Very manageable, very manageable.
By the way, I have the impression that it is
very compact.
This is the full-size model. There are also compact and subcompact versions. Yes, but do it like this. It's small, it fits well in your hand, it really fits well in your hand, but like this, it has a solid grip. Absolutely. She is a Glock user and uses the Glock for work, being a security guard. Please try this Fabrique Nationale. She got wild with me. Let's give it a shot.
Okay, they were finished.
I don't know if it's the thing I installed wrong with the extension, because
in this
right now this is the only non-original part. And yet at first he didn't do the open second just a moment ago. Maybe I should check how I assembled it. Maybe I put something in backwards because the other magazine is perfect. And
the other one works perfectly and is very comfortable, though it's a bit smaller than the 17. It's my first time trying it, and I liked both the sights and the trigger. No complaints.
The trigger is a bit different from the classic Glock because you don't pre-cock it. So it's a bit lighter, I would say. Maybe the take-up is a bit long. It effectively conceals the trigger safety, which is present even if it isn't obvious.
But the trigger pull is light?
It's got a bit of
travel, but it's nice.
Consider that this is also the heaviest of the series, because the tactical versions or the really sporty ones still have it obviously lighter. We're still about 1.2 kg, I think. No.
Anyway, it's a good trigger.
Damn it. You know, on one hand, you might see me trying out this polymer pistol and think it's just another polymer pistol. In part, you're right. In part, maybe we're getting excited for nothing. But there's one thing to say, like a student who maybe doesn't have all straight A's, but has all B's. He's not an excellent student in every category, in every subject, but he's a very good student. That's how I found myself over the past few months with the Fabrique Nationale 509, not just today. It's a polymer, it's a striker-fired polymer. So we can discuss the benefits of having a striker-fired polymer. But in all its categories, ergonomics, sights, trigger, reliability, it has a solid 8. It's a pistol not only without flaws, but with solid strengths in every category. The last shot was a bit off. I won't be the greatest sharpshooter with firearms for a long time. Actually, I hesitated to get myself a polymer pistol because I didn't have space to put it. But at this point, this is my polymer pistol of choice. Something for you, my dear viewers, should mean that I'm really in love. Hot as hell. Thank you all for watching this video. As always, remember that you are the ones who create this content. You, for example, people who subscribe, buy the t-shirts to pay for this amazing feel and the ammunition we use to do these tests. Without your contribution, I really mean it, making this kind of content on YouTube would be really impossible for me. So if you want to contribute, I thank you. One thing you can do for free to help the channel is to leave a like, a comment, but most importantly, subscribe. For a content creator like me, this helps a lot. That's all from this Fabbrica Nacional 509. Because of course, you'll see it again in future videos. So see you next time.